all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
Why don't more infant formula companies use organic, grass-fed whole milk instead of skim? Why don't more infant formula companies use the latest breast milk science? Why don't more infant formula companies run their own clinical trials? Why don't more infant formula companies use more of the proteins found in breast milk? Why don't more infant formula companies have their own factories instead of outsourcing their manufacturing? We wondered the same thing. So we made ByHeart, an infant formula company on a mission to get a lot closer to the most superfood on the planet, breast milk. Our patented protein blend has more of the important and most abundant proteins actually found in breast milk. We're the first and only U.S.-made formula to use organic, grass-fed whole milk, not skim. We even conducted the largest clinical trial by a new infant formula company in a quarter century, with clinically proven benefits like easier digestion, less spit up, and softer poops versus a leading infant formula. And we make our own formula in the USA and our very own factories in Iowa, Oregon, and Pennsylvania. ByHeart, a better formula for formula. Learn more at byheart.com.
Welcome to the No Fruit Podcast,
where we talk about our life experiences with a spiritual twist. Hosted by Maurice
and Kafa. We hope you enjoy today's episode.
Oh no, we know you're going to enjoy today's episode. You want to know why?
Why?
Because we're going to talk about, let's see. So let's backtrack for a second. So Kafa and I, we were talking about generational wealth, right?
Right.
And so, just how do you build it? You know, how are you influenced by it? Yada, 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 right? And just want to make sure that, you know, our offspring, you know, are for generations, you know, how are they going to be living, right? And so one of the things that Kafa brought up when we thought about this show, and, you know, this is called From the Last Pew, right? So let's take the key word pew. So some of us who were born and raised in church, from a generational space, do you find yourself in the same seat that you've been sitting in, or I'm sorry, that you've been sitting where you sit at currently? Is that the same seat that your ancestors sat in?
Wow.
So the question is, are you growing?
Are you growing?
Yeah, are you growing? So let's start there, though. Let's start with the whole generational thing.
So for myself, when I actively started going back to church.
Okay.
Oh, no, I can't say active. I'll start before then. When I first started going to church with my Aunt Sally, she was...
From the Valley?
No.
I'm sorry.
She was not. Well, she might have been from a valley. Who knows? I don't know. She was one of those ladies who wore the all white.
Okay.
Pastor's aide, or
yes,
one of those ladies.
Okay.
So she had to wear the all white. So she sat up in the front.
Yes.
One of like the second or third pew in the front.
Okay.
Not the very front, but somewhere very close to the front.
Okay.
And on the left side of the church. So
very specific.
Yes. Yeah. If you can remember my church that I grew up in, the choir loft.
Okay,
the piano.
we need to be a little more specific, right?
Why?
So, because we need the people to get a better visual.
Okay.
So when you walk up, Kafa's church that she grew up in was Emmanuel AME Church, and so the church itself was in the lower, best way to put it, lower left-hand corner of an apartment building. What it felt like was they had taken one of the apartments and opened up the whole floor plan to make the sanctuary, and then they had steps where you went to the basement where, again, they could have had a whole apartment down there, but they opened it up and made it a fellowship hall. So, so when you walked up the steps to the sanctuary, you come across a wall of glass, right? It had a door like in the middle or semi-middle of it, whatever, but it's like a wall of glass.
No,
And then
it was 4 doors, 4 glass doors.
okay, well, I just remember a wall of glass.
Okay.
Right? And then when you look in, it must have been about 3.5 pews, right?
It was more than that. There were more than that.
I understand. So, but it did have 3 aisles, right side, left side, in the middle. It might have had, let's say, 10 pews,
There were more than
10
that.
sets of pews, both sides. I give you that part.
Okay.
And then in the
There
very
were more.
front, on the left-hand side, you can see the organ. And then right behind the organ was the
Choir loft.
choir loft. And then to the right of that would be the altar rail with the altar and then the pulpit itself. And then over on the right-hand side, down the right-hand aisle, was 2 pews, I think, that faced into
Yes.
towards the sanctuary or something like that. I mean, towards the pulpit.
Yes.
And then there was a back door and another door, I think, to the pastor's office.
Correct.
So what Kafa's stating is that her aunt Sally from the
Yes.
Valley was on the left-hand side.
On the left.
Right. Okay. Now, got you. Now I'm sorry. I
Now-
finished
now
my
you-
explanation.
You have your visual.
Yes.
She was on the left-hand side.
Yes.
On the 2nd or 3rd pew.
Okay.
And
So she was in the middle of the church.
no, she was not. She was in the front. And she would give us little snacks,
Okay.
which I
Okay.
always thought was funny because it was always, she liked lemon drops.
Okay.
So, but they were wrapped in the plastic that was really, really hard to open. And she always give us those right before the sermon. So
So it's super
during the
loud.
during sermonic prayer or the sermonic selection,
Okay.
you would hear that rapple trying to get open.
Just like anybody else with peppermints and all that type of stuff.
Yes. So she had like the sour lemon drop. So that's where we sat growing
Okay.
up.
Okay.
Then when I was in high school, she passed away.
Okay.
And I couldn't sit there anymore. I couldn't sit on that side. It felt off,
Because she wasn't there.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. So at that point, I kind of adopted the right side of the church.
I mean, yeah, because when I had come around, you
Yes.
were on the right side.
Yes. Towards the back or the middle.
I'm about to say middle.
Right.
I would say middle back.
Yes. The front part of the back of the church.
Right. Like, so it wasn't. So again, if I say there were 10 pews in there, the middle being the 5th pew, she might have sat somewhere between the 6th and the 8th.
So the way I would put it, we had 3 sets of windows. So I wasn't at the front set of the windows and I wasn't at the back set of the windows. I was more so towards the middle set of the windows because I would like the cross breeze in the summertime. And then because we had apartments on the other side, you
Can I ask y'all a question? How many people got a science thing going on?
And then if they had the window open, you can kind of see what was going on outside or
Wow.
catch a whiff of what somebody was cooking in the apartment building. So that was me.
Wow.
Yay. So, so I didn't sit always where my family sat. I can't remember where other people sat. And I
Okay.
don't know what, I guess, I don't know who brought me over to that side of the church, but I just didn't feel right sitting on the left side. So I did move over to the right side of the church.
Okay.
And I kind of stayed over there.
Okay.
Didn't really, I visited the back pew here and there.
She said I visited.
Yeah, I would visit. I could
I
be
mean,
a,
when
I could
we-
be a visitor.
I mean, when we had gotten married, I think we kind of stayed in that back pew area.
You seem to like the back pew
I did
of that church.
because it was only 10 pews in the church, so it didn't make a difference to me. I feel like I was still in the front. Based off of my church, because those, the 10th pew in my church was still in the front. It wasn't even in the middle.
You didn't have that many pews.
I know, but that's the way it felt. So, and on top of that, in all honesty, because her church, because it was a little smaller, and I know I'll keep joking about it, but it was a very well lit church. So, so to be honest, no matter where you would sit there, you can see.
Yes. And you can hear.
Right.
The acoustics were quite well.
Right. So I think that was one of the perks. It didn't really matter where you sat because of that, if you will.
And then, because it being smaller, unlike your church, there weren't a lot of distractions. So the choir loft was little. So there wasn't a whole lot else to look at, where I think at Jones, because of the type of building it was, with the pillars and all of the church stuff, there was more stuff to look at, especially as a new person. Like, oh wow, look, those curtains, that one's ripped. Oh, look at
Did she say that was ripped?
it was.
Yo.
It was certain places it just didn't hang. It didn't have the hook. And it
my
just didn't
gosh.
hang right.
But what I will say is that, no, you're correct.
Right.
There were some places, because we had those, if anybody knows about really, really old curtains, and you had to put them metal
Text.
it was like
Paper clips or something.
Yeah, they are. If you looked at it, it looked like a lowercase n. And so the one end had that really, really sharp point that you would hook into the curtain.
Right.
Because most of the curtains had pleats in it, so we would hide that. And I'm saying it because I was the one that was hanging up some of these curtains and skirts and stuff. So we would hide the hook into that pleat, and then hang it up. Now, again, we're talking when I was not really interested. Right. Yeah, it would felt that way. But we're talking when did I really want to do it? Did we always follow up? Did I understand even putting it up what it really meant? I mean, I had a definition, but did I understand how it looked aesthetically while I'm doing it versus later on that Sunday afternoon, and I'm in the back and like, oh wow, it's actually hanging. Now, sometimes it wasn't my fault, because depending on which curtains you were talking about, people would step on it and pull it down and pull down the rod, and that, so it was other factors into, all that too. But I would say because of, like I said, with Kafa's church that she grew up in, it was very well lit. And so it didn't matter what side you sat on. I personally like sitting on the right side because I had a real glance at the choir, and I could see in the back corner, because they sat with the way they sat in there, they didn't face you forward. They were kind of sideways, so you would see the side of their face. And so you would see like the person all the way in the back left-hand corner, and whether or not they're nodding off or not. So I enjoy watching people fight and sleep, young people, you know how that goes. So it was well lit. Like you could see if someone was, drooling, because it was that well lit in that church. So it was very, very interesting there. So for myself, I did not sit in any of my family members' past seats, if you will. I think that once we were old enough and I had gone back to my home church, we sat with my Aunt Maggie, but then we didn't. And so she sat in the back for the most part. She didn't sit on the last pew, but she sat in the back. My Aunt May sat in the middle. So I always sat, and they sat on the left-hand side of the church. I remember sitting there a few times, but then there were also a few times where I remember sitting on the right-hand side on the last pew. So, literally the last pew. So there were some, I did not sit in the same location every single time. Part of that was whether it was my duties at that time, and accessibility to whatever I had going on, such as me being a trustee. If something's going on in the back of the church, downstairs, or whatever else, sometimes they need me to come and help out, with bringing people upstairs in wheelchairs,
Bringing in bags of chicken.
Yeah, so as an adult, I always had other duties where I couldn't really sit down per se. So I think that was part of the thing. But, I just wonder how many of us are still sitting in the same seat as our forefathers and foremothers. And in reality, have we grown? So I listen to Kafa, and it just makes me think about, for her, did she, and Kaf, did you, you answer you right here.
Right.
So did you not sit there because of Aunt Sally, or did you feel more comfortable in another space? And make your own mark, if you will.
I can say at first I was uncomfortable sitting where she sat. I think that we had another service and I had to sit on that side and it just felt off. I mean, there's no other way to put it than just I felt off. And I can't say that I elected to sit there. I mean, I think, for choir anniversaries and other things, I've had to sit there, but it wasn't my first place, choice of where to go. It was just kind of weird. I can even remember as a youth, again, she passed away when I was in high school. I can remember being a youth usher and I had to usher on that side of the church, and even just ushering, it felt weird. I walked by like, all right, she ain't there, so it felt weird. It did take some time to get past that. So it's not, I just want everybody to know and let you know that I'm not hung up on that anymore. I do feel comfortable. But if I, would ever go back, I mean, my church isn't there anymore.
Right.
But if I ever would go back to that building, I would feel okay. But it may not be my first choice. And maybe it wasn't my first choice in the beginning. Maybe I just went there because that's where the side that she sat, and I was with her, so that's where we all went. Myself and my little cousins, we all sat with her because she was the one that was toting us to church, so we sat with her. So it may not have been where the Holy Spirit was unctioning me to go. I was trying to go on the other side. So, So likewise, I guess, and I don't know, like if it's just something different, I don't know. But, I'm not, I have gotten over that. It's not still an issue and something that's troubling me. I have moved on and bless the Lord, I have, but I don't know, like I still gravitate to that side. And it's really funny because when I select seats in other venues, whether it's a movie theater or a classroom, I always like to sit. I don't want to sit in the front and I don't want to sit in the back. I always like to kind of pick somewhere in the middle. And I like to be not necessarily on the edge. Like I don't need an aisle seat, but next to the aisle, if you will. I feel comfortable when it comes to like a classroom or a movie theater type of a thing. Have you noticed that?
Movie theater, no, but I will say, for whatever reason, and now I'm thinking about it, movie theater wise, we've always favored the left hand side. The
left side, right?
Wow, that's really that's interesting.
It is interesting when you think about, hey, well, what side do I favor? Now, I have without you, when I've gone with the kids, we have gone on the right side, but it's still never, we're never walking to the front. And again, movie theater, because it's difficult to see, I think, from the very front. But
I mean, now, what I will say is that we can't say that we've never been in the front, because we have.
yes, we've gone to see some things where there was so many folks we had to.
Yeah, like we had no choice. I mean, because I really recall sitting up there and my neck hurt. Like, you know, we were like literally in the frizzant. So,
Yes. And I feel like I missed so much of the movie because I'm
Right.
like trying to move my head from one side of the screen
you know, so,
to the other.
you know, so what I will say is that I've never picked that part up. I've never paid attention. I feel like I'm missing out because I never paid attention
Never
to
paid
that.
attention to that. I mean, I have when again with classrooms, I realized like, hey, this is where I've always liked to sit in a classroom. I feel more involved, engaged. Like I feel if I sit in the back, I feel like I'm lost. If I sit in the front, I feel like I'm not absorbing enough. Like it's just me and the instructor. Like I need to absorb from everyone else. So I need to see their faces and their expressions a little bit and engage with them. And that's been from, you know, I want to say high school on.
I think for me, I've never, because of my last name in school.
Right.
So, I mean, it's Chisholm. So for me, you know, I've always had, and I listened to somebody the other day, when they were talking about Lonzo Ball. He's a basketball player. He's played for the Los Angeles Lakers. He's played for the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't know. Oh, he's at Chicago Bulls now. And people were asking him why the number 2. And he said he was always number 2 in class, you know, because of his last name. You know, so when I think about it for myself, because I'm CH, I'm not quite Coleman, you know. So I feel like I've always been stuck in this anywhere between number 5 and number 7. So if you think about it just from a classroom perspective, I'm always in middle to back. You know, I mean, I've had so many. I don't ever remember where the and it depends on what school I'm talking about. So like somebody had Bradford and Bradley, and it was another a B last name, and then someone had a CA being Kaysen, and then so I'm Chisholm. So a lot of times I was next. Carson. There was another somebody last name named Carson, and then it would be Chisholm. So I'm like, oh wow. All right, so I've been in school with you long enough, so I know I'm right after you. So that means I'm counting rows, I'm counting seats. All right, 1, 2, 3. You know, so I've always been anywhere between 5 and 7. You know, 6 and 8, something like that. Especially when you have 30 students in a room. So I've always been in next to the last seat, something along those lines. So when it comes to church, for me, I've always kind of been in that middle to back area, and I've never really, and that's I think that's the other reason why I tend to go to the left hand side, because in classrooms, because I'm used to being on, however, in most cases, if you think about it, in the classroom, teachers start on their right side.
Right.
You know, so alphabetically, I would be on the left, my left, technically. So that's why I guess personally I gravitate
To that side.
to the left.
Okay. And that might be why I gravitate to the right, because my last name was Wilson.
Right.
You know, so like you said, I'm not at the end of the alphabet. There may have been some Youngs or some, you know, somebody with a Z or, you know, whatever other letters come after W.
Right.
So I've always been on that side, unless we were blessed with somebody who said size order. Then, and only then, God could be like towards the front.
Right.
But most of the times, like you said, because teachers are trying to get to know you, and do attendance and all those things, they put us in alphabetical order by
Right.
last name.
Right.
So a lot of times I did end up on my right or the teacher's left
Right.
side of the room. So maybe that's why, like you said, in church, I gravitate to that right side.
So in reality, I was not moved by generation as much as what's the best word?
Familiarity.
I wouldn't say familiarity. That's not the word I was looking for. I was looking for tag, I'm drawing a blank. But it's just, we'll use that for lack of a better term.
Muscle memory.
It wasn't muscle memory, but I was conditioned. That's what it was.
Conditioned.
I'm conditioned to be on the left-hand side, because every year in primary school, and for those of you who don't know, I've only, I never had gone to pre-K or kindergarten. I went straight to first grade. So
Because he's so smart.
So for me, from 1st to 12th, I was always on the left-hand side. So I was conditioned, no matter if the door was in the front of the room or the back of the room, whatever, I was always on the left hand. Actually, I was on the right hand side in biology, but otherwise, everything else, I was on the left hand side. Now that I think about it, it did, because that was one of my worst classes. But yeah, so and we were mixed up. We weren't in alphabetical order.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we weren't in alphabetical order for whatever reason. Actually, you know what? My friend Herman's always sat on that side, and we kind of hung together. And his last name was Reddick, so he was conditioned to be on that side. So he messed me up.
He messed you up.
So no.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Then, so I just want to say one quick thing. Even when we look beyond our church that we grew up in, when we go looking at some of the other churches we attended and were members at, we sat on the right-hand side.
Some of that, and if I base it off of, let's say the last church we attended, I think
Everybody sat on the right-hand side.
Right. Yeah, so
It was just so big, and we were only 5 of us. So.
So I would say that some of that was circumstances, situations, not necessarily, because I believe when we started, we weren't in the front. By the end, we was closer to the front because they kept telling us to slide on up. But
I'm saying we were on the right. I didn't say it was the front or the back. I'm just saying we were on the right-hand side.
Oh no, I actually had to think about even positioning for that. Like, all right, well, we did do this, so but yeah, so I think that's what some of the I was just
when we went to visit churches, I'm sorry, I'm just keeping this going on. But when we would go visit, I think the last church we went to go visit out here, we were on the right-hand side. Now, granted, the door was on the right. And I don't know, because we came a little late and we just kind of slid in.
I don't know what church you're talking about.
The one out by the airport.
Yes, I would kind of say, the door was on the right. So I think we kind of slid in because it was right there.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Interesting.
So yeah. So, I wouldn't say that we were pulled by generational situations, but I would say that we were probably pulled on because of whether it was a conditioning, I should say, habit, or convenience, because some doors would be like, oh yeah, the door is right here. I'm a little late. So I'm going to slide right here and not cause a scene or whatever the situation might have been. So I'm curious, y'all, do you find yourself in the same space? And we could go so many different ways with this because of, as I had stated earlier, I had asked a question earlier, like, are you growing? Like, are you in that space because that person was there and you're, are you stuck in what that person meant to you versus venturing to the front? Because like Kafa said, she wants to get, whatever the situation is.
Right. I want to feel what's going on. Like, so from my grandmom's church, she goes all the way to the front. Like the first pew that regular folk can sit in. That's where she wants to sit. But she wants to see what's happening up front.
Well, I was going to say that she's newsy. So that by itself is.
And the fact that she walks so slow, so we have to do this little parade walk all the way to the
So
front.
that's a whole newsy thing. Like, that's not even.
It's so funny because she waves to everybody as she walks by. Like we do, it's truly a pageantry to walk up there. But I feel lost because I'm at the front and I can't see anybody behind me. I feel like, okay, people looking at the back of my head and I can't see if somebody's saying hallelujah or if they all behind me sleep and I'm the only one in the church awake.
Right. Right. So I think when it comes down to this whole seating chart, if you will, because that's the other thing too, people are kind of marked present in church by where they sit.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. That's a good thing to do. Is to move seats and then the pastor be looking for you and they can't find you.
Right.
And they gotta be like,
right.
Maurice, are you here? You sitting where you normally sit. So yeah, that's a good thing. To mix them up a little bit.
Right. So I just want
everybody
y'all
switch seats next Sunday.
don't do that. Don't do that, because right now, just for everything that we're going through, no, stay in your seat, because as they talk about pods and all that type of stuff, no, whoever was breathing on the back of your neck last week, can let them continue on, So actually, they shouldn't be that close, but y'all get what I'm saying. But yeah, so let us know, are you still sitting in the same seat? Is your family still sitting in the same seat for the last 35, 45, 350 years? Just let us know where y'all are with this. I really think that this is a great conversation starter. I think that, next time we sit down in a group, we should talk about this. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the issue, though.
What's that?
Most of the people that we're going to talk to are pastors. So we almost guarantee that
they sitting in the same seat.
Yeah, some of them are. Some of them are second and third generation ministers. So, wow. Mm-hmm. All right, never mind. The whole world sits in the same seat. Everybody just in the same spot. But we thank y'all for listening to us.
Yeah.
Anything else, Kav?
God bless you.
Hey, Kafa, what do we want them to do?
Maurice, we want everyone to stay fit with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow, share, comment, and subscribe to the No Fruit Podcast.
Continue to listen to us on your favorite podcast channels.
And look for new episodes every Thursday.
We thank y'all very much for listening to us.
May God bless you all.
Peace.
We all know a guy who only occasionally shaves for big occasions, and it's because that occasional shave really hurts. It's the time of year for big occasions, and yet there he is, suffering with that cheap drugstore razor. Let's help him out. Henson Shaving's line of razors, built with aerospace precision, deliver a smooth shave your dad, brother, and even son can enjoy, eventually. With replacement blades just 10 cents each, you'll buy it once, and they'll use it for life. How's that for the perfect gift? Celebrate with 100 free blades on your first purchase, and no subscription headaches. HensonShaving.com/holiday.
The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.